Michael Madden. I'm the founder of the Lehigh Valley Elite Network. We're actually doing our second broadcast of the day. We're over here at Remax Unlimited on Schott Avenue in Whitehall, Pennsylvania. I'm sitting here with Peter. Peter, why don't you pronounce your name so I don't make a mess of it, and
Sure.
then that way people know who you are.
Sure. My name is Pete Seyler with the Growth Coach of Allentown.
Oh, good. All right. So I met Peter. I think you were off of LinkedIn, or how did you originally find out who I was as far as networking?
LinkedIn, I believe, was
Oh,
the
good.
first contact, and
Awesome.
it's been good ever since.
Good. So I had founded this group about 5 years ago called the Lehigh Valley Elite Network. And basically I was networking for years in another organization, B&I, which actually taught me the skills to network. And what happened was after about 3 or 4 years of being involved in B&I, my network got so large that it was hard to keep in touch with people. And one of the challenges was for some of the people that were folks that were coming to visit our chapter, our local chapter, is our group got up to about 60 members. And the challenge is when the group gets that large is almost everything's a conflict with somebody else in the group. And in that world, you're only allowed one profession per chapter. The other challenge is there was a weekly commitment that's required, and then also there's an annual fee that you have to pay for that. So what I wanted to do is I was losing touch with all these professionals that I would bring to a meeting that couldn't join because of the restrictions or for whatever reason, and I was losing touch with them. So my idea is to do a month-to-month meeting where there was no fees involved, and that way I could attract and stay in front of this broader audience. So that's kind of how we got started. We had one location in Allentown, Pennsylvania, which we meet once a month at now for the last 5 years or so, and it's grown from that. One of the things that happened, though, in this process is I learned a lot about networking, social media, and all kinds of stuff. But we actually grew from one location up to about 8. And then it was crazy how much effort I had to put in outside of the meeting.
A little unwieldy.
Yeah, and all I was doing basically was meeting new people with no time to actually market myself or do anything like that. My business at that time, and it still is today, I market a product called Legal Shield, which gives you access to an attorney and things like that. So that's what I was doing at the time, and then I started shrinking them back down to where it was manageable for me to actually do that. So we have 3 locations currently. One's at the Morgan's Restaurant, which is the first Thursday of the month. That's from 8 to 10. The second one is over at Buca de Beppo in Whitehall, Pennsylvania. That's 11 to 1. And then our third location is over at the Texas Roadhouse in Easton. That's also going to be 11 to 1. The other thing that I had temporarily shut down was we were having one location strictly dedicated towards teaching people, business owners that were involved in our network group, how to use social media effectively. Mm-hmm. So we would have different topics once a month, and then I'm going to actually look at other locations for that. But my intention is to have that ongoing once a month. This is what you do with social media. This is how they share the information that the content we're producing at these local meetings. So how this whole thing came about with the Facebook Live was I had interviewed Melody yesterday. She actually was a presenter at our last week at our, actually 2 weeks ago at our Morgan's Restaurant. So she came in with a camera and handed it to Carol Landis, who's actually a realtor in this office, and we did a Facebook Live video. And I was like, whoa, this is a different thing here. This is free. This allows you to get in front of this huge audience there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so, and we actually recorded we brought equipment and recorded over at Buca de Beppo. So for those of you that are new on using Facebook Live, I think it's real important to understand how it works and that you have to have a strong internet connection. And because we had a weak internet connection, this brilliant presentation that Peter did was recorded, but it was never uploaded to Facebook because of the internet connection we were using at the time. So at any rate, my intention is with these meetings is I'm going to actually be doing one-on-ones with the different members of our group as a way not only to illustrate what I think is important in networking, but also kind of give people exposure to the great people I meet at these networking meetings. So without further ado, Peter, why don't you kind of give us a background of what you do and how you do things, and then we can go from there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Before I jump into me, one thing I don't want to let escape the group and ultimately the world is the fact that when you put your groups together, Lehigh Valley Elite Networking, there's no yearly dues or subscription service that's required. And it's really unique, not only in our community, in our neck of the woods, but it's truly unique everywhere I've ever been, to not try to drain entrepreneurs of dues, service fees. You're essentially paying for lunch, and you have an opportunity to build relationships and meet the right kind of people. And I don't want that to escape.
No, I appreciate that because, I think my intention with the networking wasn't necessarily to monetize it in a way that it was, I wanted to, not have fees so I can attract as broad as audience as possible. And like even one of my long-term intentions is to build out this Lehigh Valley Elite real estate. And my thought process is that I can actually monetize like our Lehigh Valley Elite network right now gets about 1,500 hits a day. And we show up on the first page of Google for social media, for business networking, for business, anything like that, when you attach the word Lehigh Valley to it. And why that's important is there's such a tremendous amount of people moving in from outside the area, New York, New Jersey, Philadelphia market, even out in Pittsburgh. They're all coming to the Lehigh Valley because of what it's attracting. And people are doing searches on their phone, and I'm popping up all the time, and not me, but the group of people that is called the Lehigh Valley Elite Network. And what my main intention is to give people a little understanding how the internet works. So when there's 1,000 eyeballs on you, looking at you
Absolutely.
because of you presenting at a meeting, that you have your contact information correct, so this actually can turn into a opportunity for you, rather than advertising that you're incompetent or whatever the case may be. So that's why I'm really crazy sometimes about making sure people's internet presence is correct.
Good.
Before they present themselves to the in one of our meetings.
Absolutely, and that that your passion really comes through, and I think that's important for everybody that's seeing this now or will see it, just to know how passionate you are about connecting good people.
Yeah,
To help them grow their networks and ultimately strengthen the group.
Absolutely. And, I was talking to Peter a little, and we'll kind of announce this through this video here, but what happened was about, I would say almost a year ago, I had a gentleman, Steve Gunn, who was a personal coach, and we were at the time doing a meeting over at the Texas Roadhouse over in Trexlertown. So he just did this brilliant thing, and I'm like, man, this guy should be on stage. He's like, it's amazing. Like, he's a kind of low-key guy, and he just did this brilliant presentation. So what we were doing was, I wanted to kind of showcase what he did and actually get some, free coaching advice, of course.
Absolutely.
But the reality is, I wanted to illustrate what a personal coach does and how that works. So we kind of got started, and then since then he's been retired and he's pursuing other things. But the idea is actually understand the coaching process, because I would tell you the one thing that I learned from doing the Lehigh Valley Elite Network, that I think it's Stephen Covey that said, begin with the end in mind. I did not do that. I just started doing this Lehigh Valley Elite Network, started meeting a lot of people. It got bigger, and before you know it, my whole life was consumed by running meetings, meeting people with really no end in mind.
Absolutely.
And it turned into this monster that I couldn't manage, and I was like, I got to re-educate myself as to what I'm trying to accomplish here.
You see that happen a lot. And,
Yeah.
And really what allowed me to choose the path that I'm on now is that not necessarily just the ending point, but a firm grasp of why. I strongly believe in the inherent goodness of entrepreneurship.
Right.
And whether it's owning a business or whether it's working in sales.
Right.
The doers in our society add tremendous value, not only for themselves, but for their families, our communities, more importantly, our society and our system. And I'm so passionate about how that system works, the universal language of business, that I took the opportunity to expand my scope. And you talk about a coaching process, and it's bringing not only guideposts, but a real accountability, a sounding board to really develop and refine the skills, the talents, and the beliefs that led you to your business in the first place.
Oh, absolutely.
That's what coaching is, or should be.
Yeah, there's a term I heard before that I'm reusing, but like I'm a hurricane looking to touch down. And the reality is, my focus is kind of all over the place. Some of the greatest presenters in the world, they always claim that they have ADHD as one of the things,
right.
and I have it. And I'm all over the place. And the reality is I have all this tremendous energy, but unless it's focused on something I'm trying to accomplish,
Absolutely.
it's a waste. And it can create a very unproductive environment. And you have these highs and lows because you get all excited about something, and then all of a sudden you realize you didn't really accomplish what you needed to accomplish in that day. And then
Yes.
And I think it's very important to start out, with the goal setting. So I'm excited to work with you on that.
Absolutely.
So the idea is that we're going to actually broadcast his coaching sessions with me on Facebook Live, so people can actually see a demonstratable process, not only to kind of see how the process works, but it's going to hold me accountable, because it's one thing, saying you're going to have a goal and do that, and you're private.
Absolutely.
But I'm putting it in front of 1 billion plus people out there, and who knows who's you'll see that. But the reality is, I think it's important for everybody to understand. I've seen coaches, the best people in the world have coaches.
Absolutely.
They can't see themselves.
Absolutely. Professional athletes, business and industry leaders, all recognize the value of consistently utilizing documented, consistent, and repeatable processes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And maximizing what works and eliminating what doesn't.
Right. And I really was impressed with he did a presentation over Buca di Beppo, and unfortunately we didn't capture it on video, but I liked your thought process. Because honestly, with personal coaches, I see a lot, because we attract a lot, because there's this is a no-fee based networking group. But I think when you're trying to identify who's a good coach for you, you really got to understand the personality's got to match. Your philosophies have to match.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's not going to be a productive thing. And I think that's important. If you could speak a little to
Absolutely.
that, selecting the right coach for yourself.
So it's one of the most important things in business, period, is to ultimately find the people who we're meant to be with.
Right.
One of the greatest flaws that a lot of salespeople and business owners have as they take their offer to market is they have the expectation that everybody should just love me.
Right.
I'm wonderful. Why
Yeah.
wouldn't you do business with me?
Right.
And they fall into this trap, and it becomes very, very personal very quick.
Right.
When it doesn't work out that way.
Right.
And one of the hallmarks, at least from my perspective, of bringing a focus on facing reality to the process and to the relationship is understanding that not everybody is a perfect fit.
Right.
Not everybody is intended to do business with us. And that's why you see coaches of different stripes,
Right.
whether it's sports or whether it's in business.
Right.
There are styles.
Right.
And those styles have to not necessarily be perfectly in sync, but we have to appreciate, like you said, everybody's philosophy, each other's philosophy.
Philosophy is a big thing. It took me a long time to recognize and accept that there are going to be people that just don't like you.
Yes.
And that's just the way it is. Even though you're well-intentioned and you really are trying to help them in a way, they may not see that and
Correct.
perceive that.
Well, and it's important on the flip side of that same equation to look at it as it's not personal, because
Yeah,
they don't
I
dislike
agree.
you, they just don't dislike some personality trait.
No, absolutely.
And that's the important piece. It's not personal. It's not intended to be harsh or mean. It's just a statement of the fact that we're all individuals.
Yeah,
we're all people.
absolutely.
And that we all have certain default characteristics that we're attracted to.
Yeah, well, I'll give you an example. Like, even when I'm doing my networking meetings, I kind of take pictures of everybody that's in the room as a way to help them get identified on the internet. And they can meet other people that are, connected on Facebook or LinkedIn, whatever the case may be. That's not for everybody. There are some people that are just totally against me taking their picture, and they don't want to be in there, and that's okay.
Well, consider when you have a face for radio like yours truly, it's tough sometimes.
No, I really had. I'm well intentioned in the sense, like, I think that's a good picture, but people have their own perception of who they are, and they're like, and I'm always like, hey, if you don't like something, there's a way and a mechanism on Facebook you can actually take that down. And I want to make sure that people are connected. Because,
Absolutely. Well, and they should be willing to step outside of what's comfort in the immediate sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's important to be recognizable and be known if we're truly growing our businesses.
Right.
So, I like you, I understand and appreciate that some people are apprehensive, but let's face it, if I can put my mug on the internet, everybody should be all right.
Yeah, and the reality is that's what people see every day of the week. You can pretend that nobody's looking at you, but when they go out to the store, that's what they're seeing. So
Yes,
it is
they
what
are.
it is. And I think the other thing, challenge that I found too, was when I really started understanding the power of social media and really started understanding how that helps with people's Google searches and all this kind of stuff. I really got really passionate about it, and I think there are some people that perceive what I do, as far as the networking and my philosophy. My whole philosophy about networking, I think some people think that Facebook or some of these other things that you do replaces what we're doing right now. And I
Yeah.
will just tell you from networking for years and years and years, the only productive thing that ever happened to me is when I sat down with somebody outside of that venue
Yes.
and kind of strategized and built a trust level and then figured out a way to work together and how we can complement what we're already doing. And really, the other thing that I see a lot too is that a lot of times people will try and think it's a waste of their time if they do a one-on-one presentation or interview that we're doing now with somebody that isn't necessarily a recipient of their product or service. It really has nothing to do with that.
No,
All you're
no.
trying to establish is that you're reliable, trustable, and their doors will open up in their context that would be, a viable person.
Well, yeah,
to
if you
do that.
put it in context and you think about it, right now we're sitting here having a conversation.
Right.
People across the world can now view this conversation, and what it does for both of us is really create a win-win-win.
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
you're winning, I'm winning, and ultimately our clients by extension are winning.
Right.
Because we're creating leverage.
Right.
It's not just one-to-one, it's one-to-many.
Right.
And that's really powerful in any business.
Yeah, and you know what's exciting about Facebook Live is that they have the capability of making comments live as you're doing it. Now we're going to kind of.
I hope they're being kind.
Well, I don't know. I mean, that's the advantage of having a coach too, is that you're getting a different perspective from somebody that's not you in your own head of what's going on.
Absolutely.
Because I'm telling you, just from being around people so much, people's perception of themselves sometimes is so far off that
Well,
it's
it
like,
is.
and they're like, wait a second, you
Absolutely.
got to get back over here. 'cause that's-
Absolutely. It serves as a defense mechanism.
Yeah, absolutely.
You think about it, we're all hardwired fight or flight. And sometimes the fight is having a wrong view of who we are, what our external reality is.
Absolutely.
And correcting that's important.
Yeah, and just to kind of give you a little bit of my background, and I'm a new realtor to the real estate industry, but I'm not a new person to real estate. My background for probably about 10 years before, not even 10 years, I would say about 5 years ago, I was a full-time real estate investor. And I had a pretty large roofing and siding business in New Jersey, and I was involved in construction a lot. And I would buy houses and then renovate them and resell them. And then when the banks blew up, probably end of 2007, 2008, and then all the financing got cut off, it really was a challenge to flip houses because people couldn't get financing to buy the house that I was renovating. So in the meantime, that's how I started marketing Legal Shield and things like that and doing all this networking. But my focus with real estate now and how I got involved with real estate again is I had a woman, Jennifer Schimmel, who's one of the top realtors locally in the Lehigh Valley. She was helping me kind of launch the Lehigh Valley Elite Network, and she would actually help with the sign-ins and things like that. And she's over at Keller Williams over in Emmerich Boulevard in Bethlehem. Great realtor. It just really